Very good morning to all of you reached here today to be part of this discussion. I am extremely honored and privileged to be to read this book and getting an opportunity to interact with the author of the book. Uh, Welcome Latha to Kerala, to Hortus Literature Festival, and especially to Cochin. Uh, uh, when we talk about sexuality, sex, uh, within our everyday life, it is an integral part. At the same time, we are very ashamed and reluctant and hesitant to discuss it. Uh, Being readers, we know that many of the literature have taken that courage to discuss these aspects in the literature field, whereas many academic work which is analyzing these literature works has been complaining about why are we not discussing it openly? What are the barriers while discussing this matter, which has been discussing in academia, and certain literature have been taking a lead in discussing that. Being Malayalam readers, we are familiar with many of the authors who have taken that courage. And I read Toilet Seat as a book which is in response to these queries. It is not a fiction, it is a non-fiction which is discussing about what are our problems in discussing sex. Why are we not discussing it? What are the problems in doing sex? And this is not in purely an academic work, though she is quoting a couple of authors and all, but this comes from a popular perspective and responds to that popular perspective. And in that way, I would like to say that the Toilet Seat is opening a new genre of writing, especially writing on sex, writing about sex, non-academic, non-fiction, and trying to do it in a popular way so that it reaches to people and it changes the mindset and it actually helps us to think reflectively. If you go through the pages of this book, probably many things which Latha discusses in this book is familiar to us, but it gives you a perspective, gives you a kind of an introspect. It helps you to introspect what's wrong with all of us. Why are we hesitant to discuss sex, and why are we not open about it? And her argument is through several chapters, she argues that for a democratic way of living, for a non-patriarchal society, we need to have this as an exercise to take forward and to discuss sex openly, discuss the sexual likes and dislikes with partners, and to enjoy that, because many of the works which we are familiar with and around sex is one major narrative around sex is about the criminality of it, how it is a criminal act. And another narrative is this kind of a violence against women. And we hardly speak about the pleasure part of it. And that is where Toilet Seat actually filling that vacuum and discusses about how it can make more pleasurable. That pleasurability is not related only to the individual pleasure, but how it can lead to a democratic way of living in our society so that it can curb all the hierarchical structures around the practicing of sex. Thank you so much for writing this. And my first question is, why such a book? What had led to you to write a book in this particular theme and writing in this particular manner?
And thanks, Arathi. First of all, good morning to everybody here. And thanks, Arathi, for the beautiful, elaborate introduction of the book. Uh, I don't know, from even when I was a child, I've been looking around. I used to be an observer. I would be a very silent kid, but I will keep observing things. So within a family, I have seen people being hypocritic, having extramarital affairs, but not very compatible partners, but they show to the world that they are a beautiful couple and a successful marriage and all that. So as I grew up and I got married, and I also started talking to people. Generally, when we have friends, we meet up with a lot of men who come and tell me that they are not happy in their marriage sexually, men, and they like approach women to have an extramarital affair. So I was wondering why people get married at all. People get married basically, major reason is to have sex in our culture, because we are we don't encourage people having sex before marriage. So one of the major reasons for marriage is also giving a license to have sex. Okay, so once married, why they are again searching for people outside, women outside. I'm just not blaming men. I'm also talking about women, because men cannot have sex without women. So I'm not taking one side. So when I was wondering, I also thought about my life, where I was also with my husband for about 5 years, but I've never had that pleasure. And when I talk to these men, when I ask them why, when you have a wife at home, why are you searching outside? And I've always had an answer saying that she's no longer interested. Probably after a few years of marriage, she lost interest, and she gives excuses like kids have grown up and she's no longer interested and all that. So that made me wonder, how could it be? If a man needs it, obviously a woman should also be needing it. I don't think nature is that way very biased. So I thought there has to be something wrong, which boiled down to the fact that I can definitely say that in our society, in our culture, people are not like, kids are not taught anything about sex. Leave kids, I'm talking about adolescents or young people who are getting into marriage and all that. They don't have any proper avenue of knowing what is sex and how it can be. It's about sharing, it's not about just taking or giving. And we always have a narrative that women always say, like, I gave myself to him and all that. And the men also always have this narrative of taking it. Why that? It cannot be given and taken and all that. It has to be sharing. So which means it's a clear-cut case that women are not having or not enjoying that pleasure which is due to them. So which means men also don't know how to keep them happy, or they are not. Some men are not bothered. Most of the men are ignorant, and women are also not talking about it. Probably they are also ignorant. So after a point in time when they don't get anything out of this, how long they can be mechanically having it. So probably in the beginning they would have had. They had no choice, or they would have been thinking that someday something will happen, but after a point in time they come to know that they don't get anything out of it, and they also become a little powerful in the house, like they can talk back to the husband and they can tell him that I cannot have it with you, but they don't want to, though they give excuses. They have been taught not to discuss it. You can sleep with somebody in our society, but you cannot talk about sex with that same person. So that's the way we have been brought up. So these are the things that made me think about it. And I always had a habit of writing whatever I think since I was young. So I just started this. I didn't even plan to bring it as a book. So I started writing it. Then it went on and on. I thought, why not bring it as a book? At least it could be. I just wanted to put across my thoughts and see what happens. Because understanding and proper conversation between the partners, I'm sure this will be a good thing for their life.
Thank you. And probably those who are here today not read the book might have getting confused why such a title for a book which is discussing about sex and desires and mutual consent and all. And for that, I would like to read a portion from the book, which clearly, in very brief, explain why she had given such a title, which is reflective of how patriarchal our families are, how hierarchical our relationships are, and how that those has been reflected in the act of sex, and how that has taken away the pleasure in doing sex. So let me read out from page 35. For many men, a woman is not a partner in bed, but is a toilet seat in the washroom. When a man is sexually aroused, he is in a dire state of urgency to get his semen out, and he needs a place to eject it into. At, at that point, he assumes that his wife or female partner or girlfriend is waiting for him to use her like a toilet seat. He can simply go ahead and eject his semen into her hole. This may seem like too harsh a judgment to pass on men. They do not actually think of women as toilet seats to ejaculate into. But the comparison is unavoidable, as most men are under the illusion that ejaculation is what sex is all about. And this is very vividly conveys why such a title to a book like this. And probably when we start our discussion, many of us can probably reflect upon it. But one fascinating and beautiful thing about this book is Latha brings many of her friends and relatives, their experiences into this book as small anecdotes. That anecdotes actually gave life to this work. And probably Latha can tell us how those experiences of you and your friends and relatives has made this a wonderful work. No, how those experiences had made this book a wonderful one.
Okay, that's a question.
Yeah, that's a question. And is there any concern problem you face while using their experiences as narratives in this book?
Though I have used all that, I think, but for the preface where I have written about my dad, I don't think I have referred anybody's name directly. So beyond that, I don't care. So that's it. Because I have not pointed out who has done what and all that. So it could be about, in the preface, I think I've written about me. In the book, actually, I've written about quite a few relatives, a colleague, a friend, and all that. But nowhere I've mentioned that. But I think I should also thank all these people for giving me an inspiration to write about all this.
Okay. And one part I really like this. This is not simply criticizing how we practice sex in our everyday life. This is also giving you certain rules how you can improve in your everyday life. And that's not only for main focus of this book is primarily heterosexual married couple and their issues, and it's not gone beyond heterosexuality and discussing about homosexual couple and their happiness and their way of finding happiness and all. Probably next project or something you can think about something like that, that being the limitation of this book. But many experiences which she narrates in the book is about how painful it is, how disgraceful it is, how it is not addressing the dignity of your the other partner. These are all discussed here. And she also gives certain kind of rules to be followed, not only for married couple, but those who are in live-in relationship, those who are in extramarital relationship, how to do sex with dignity is discussed here. Could you please reflect upon that part a bit and discuss that?
Like, I don't know what to say. A lot of people question me on why I have not talked about like homosexuality and all that. The first answer is I'm not one of them, so I don't know anything very clearly. I don't have a great clarity on that. So I thought it would be better for me to know something about it and then write. So it is not right on my part to write about something on which I don't have clarity. And about all this extramarital affair and all that, there are a lot of questions, not only from you, there are so many people, wherever I go for talking about the book, there is always a question about how can you justify extramarital affairs. I just want to say I'm not advocating extramarital affair. I'm just saying it exists. You cannot deny that. It does exist. So I'm just saying when it is existing, I thought I'll give them as well a few this thing to uh, carry on without affecting the family or the other responsibilities you have. It's not that I have invented it or something like that. I believe the moment the marriage, something called the concept of marriage came into existence, extramarital affair also came into existence. So without this, that is not there. Uh, and I also believe a good conversation between the partners, whether they are living together, they are living in together, or husband, wife, or whatever. It's always better to. It's not just about sex. What I'm saying is, people have to understand their needs, what their pleasure is, and all that. And I've always wondered, how come two strangers, like parents arrange for a marriage, they bring up a daughter without teaching her anything and telling her you have to dress in a particular way, you cannot go out, you cannot do this, and bring her up without knowing anything. And then get her married to a stranger, all of a sudden, whom she has never met in her life. Probably things are changing now. I think even after they arrange for the marriage, after the this thing, what do you call that? Once they decide on the particular groom and bride and all, they have some time to talk to each other, understand. But there are still families where they get a stranger and they just decide that this is going to be your husband and this is going to be a wife and all that. And they just get married. And I don't understand how a girl who has been brought up in such a conservative way is supposed to stand nude in front of a stranger and allow him to do anything, whatever he wants. This is somehow, this has always been a disgusting thing for me whenever I think of it. People should have known each other, people should have got connected emotionally or somewhere, and then you should have a physical relationship. But our culture is so, I don't know, I don't seem to understand. How can they start a life with having sex without even understanding or knowing each other? And if they are not compatible with each other, how are they going to carry on? And that's how they have been carrying on for years and years and years. So I just thought since these are all existing, I just thought I'll put in my thoughts so that you can discuss, do something about it.
Yeah, yeah. This very idea of arranged marriage is quite strange. I tell to my students also. When I was doing my postdoctoral work in Berlin with my colleagues, this is one idea I really struggled to explain, like arranged marriage. So they were quite confused. So this then the bride and groom will meet the first time. When I was a child in rural Kerala, I remember many of the arranged marriages. The the grooms used to be in Middle East. In Kerala, we have a lot of Middle East migration, and this person will see his bride at the first time at the day of the marriage. So then they all got surprised. They couldn't even digest how would that be possible. So then when I always say that when we are talking about arranged marriages, what are we actually arranging? And in Latha's work, Latha talks about eligibility to get into a marriage. And many a part when you read it, you feel it like the absurdity of the institution itself. And I urge you to read that, because it gives you an opportunity to reflect upon and introspect and reflectively, self-critically think about the institutions which we all are part of. So probably, Latha, could you please reflect a bit on the kind of heterosexual marriages as an institution in contemporary times, and how regressive it is, and what do you imagine as an ideal kind of a situation? Part of it you have already replied, but as an institution, what is your response to the so-called heterosexual marriages, and how regressive those institutions are.
Marriage as a concept, actually, I think it's good. But this cannot be an arranged marriage or something, and you cannot attach permanency to anything for that matter. Because people keep growing. And sometimes even the people whom we think that we are alike, that we have a lot of compatibility and all that, sometimes people grow apart also. So the problem is once you get married, they say you have to be like it's all decided in heaven, and you have to be there with them all through your life, whether you like it or not. I know I know a lot of frustrated men and women who are just there just because they have got married, because they have got kids. And they believe that after having a kid, separation is not good because it will affect the kid. But I believe one parent, a matured parent, is more than enough to bring a kid properly, instead of two parents who are fighting every day and confusing the kids as to who is good or who is bad, whom should they listen to and all that. So there is a lot of absurdity. In fact, these days, I think there are people when I'm invited to marriages, I hardly these days I go one, unless and otherwise I know that they will feel sad if I don't go, because I feel sad for the couple. I feel sad for the parents who are getting them married, and the expenditure they make, I mean lakhs and crores and all that. I'm just wondering, how long are they going to live together? Why are you spending so much? Why are you doing all this natak? I don't understand.
Yeah, when my students come to invite me to for their weddings and all, my face goes really dim, and they also feel bad. I also feel bad, but at the same time, the same thoughts which used to come to my mind as well. How long it is going to survive? Even if it is surviving, how happy they're going to be, because very bright students, they're getting married, and after that we've seen several stories which is not so glossy.
I think as a society, I don't think marriage can be abolished, because it's been there for years and generations, not only in India, across the universe. So I don't think that can be abolished or something, but I think as a society we owe the future generation at least an understanding of, as I have written, you need some kind of eligibility. Meaning, I say, you have to educate them. It is not easy to live with another person. All along you have been living with your parents, and you have your way and you do things and all that. And you get married to somebody, and two people have to live together. How many ever years you had known them before marriage, even if it's in love marriage. After marriage, when you start living together, then only you realize, because all through we would have only shown the what is the bright side of us. That happens, right? We keep meeting people, we keep talking to them. We always try to show the bright side of it. That's our nature. But once we start living together, then we come to know the bad side, or the bad side that we think that is bad and all that. And people, what they have to understand, the youngsters, is it's okay to get married, but at least understand what it takes to be a partner. How to respect them, how to give them space. And also that, what do I say? You have to at least see whether the core values match. That's where the whole problem comes. Even other things can be compromised or adjusted or whatever. When your core value doesn't match with that person, then it becomes love cannot blossom at all there. Like you disgust people who don't have the same core value that you have. Supposing I say I'm a very ethical person, I believe that I'm an ethical person, and I wouldn't do certain things. But after marriage, I see my partner doing all that. I don't think I can have respect on him. But still, whether I respect him or not, I'm forced to live with him for years. Leave alone love, even without respect for each other, these people keep living their life. It affects their kids, because they see that and grow. So they also learn that hypocrisy. And we keep passing on this to generation after generation. And that's why I think our society is so confused. I think as a society, teachers, parents, everybody, first they have to grow, they have to have the maturity, and then pass it on to the kids. Even as they reach their adolescence, we should start talking to them about sex, teach them what it is and how natural it is, but how it will impact their career or studies or whatever if they are going to start indulging in it so fast. Parents have to be friends. The kids should never fear anything, that they should be able to come and talk to you about anything and everything without fear. So I think we have to evolve, so that we also bring up the kids evolved.
And
when the time is up.
Yeah, almost. One last question, and then we will open the floor for discussion. I'm sure that there might be quite a lot of questions to you. And as we were discussing before, you were talking about the natural part of sex. And in that book, primarily, Latha brings the analogy of food to discuss sex. So your choice of food, how would you like to cook a food, what is your preference of food. So the same way people might have their sexual choices as well. And that brings the very idea of sex as something, not a dirty talk, but something which is essential. And she starts her book by saying that this is like food, clothing, and something is a primary right of a person, primary requirement of a person. So when we understand that as something primary requirement, like we will be able to, the way we discuss about food, we should be able to discuss about the sex as well. So that analogy, I really liked it. And we have this English version has a fabulous cover, you can see. And the designer Chandru is here with us. Thank you, Chandru, for that wonderful cover. And let's open the floor, and so that we can have more interactions with the author.
I mean, it was quite interesting going through the whole process of translating your book. And one visual that is lingered in my mind is, when somebody comes home, you ask your kid to go with him, and the kid refuses to go. And at the same time, you are talking about the responsibility of parents, how you shouldn't be intimidating them, forcing them, coercing them to go with somebody who is coming, because that has also a relationship with the kid and the person who is approaching them, and to save them from being, misused, persecuted in some way, as we say in today's parlance. You have to respect the individuality of the kids as well. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah. We all have a very good habit of whoever comes to our house as our friends or neighbors, elderly people, or our relatives, whoever. And we all, by our nature, our culture, we always respect the guests. We always say that is, we should respect the guests, and we have to be very polite to them, respectful to them, and all that. But most of the child molestations happen not outside the home. Mostly it happens within your home, within our homes. Either by relatives, close relatives, or by uncles and aunts and neighbors and all that. But the kids don't come and tell the parents at all, because that's the space we have failed to give our kids. And we think some people are very good, and because we have always held them in a very good, respectable position and all that, but we never know what kind of face that they are showing to that kid. And since kids are vulnerable, very vulnerable, and kids also see that we give a lot of respect to that person who is molesting or doing something bad to that kid, the kid is afraid to come and tell the parents, because it feels that that person is respected. What if they don't believe me, trust me? And moreover, there are so many parents who always say even, see, I believe every kid, even once we grow, we are able to understand, our minds are contaminated. But till we grow, as long as we are innocent, just like dogs and other beings, we can easily sense whether somebody is touching it. We might not like somebody's touch. Even if a roadside dog, if you go and touch, some dogs will, sometimes with some people it will be very friendly, with some people it will start barking and all that. Same way, the kid also understands naturally when it doesn't like somebody touching it. It doesn't have to, you don't even have to teach them good touch and bad touch and all. They will intuitively understand if they don't like it, there is something wrong. They may not understand what is wrong, but they will definitely know that they are not happy with their touch. So, when you force your kid into going to somebody, if your kid says that it will not go to somebody, if it cries if somebody carries it, if it cries somebody touches it, I think as parents we should respect the feelings of the kids rather than the guest who has come home. But ironically, what we do is we respect that person and we tell the kids, why are you crying? He is only our uncle. Why are you crying? He is only our whoever it is. So we always put the pressure on the kids without understanding what it is going through or what it is trying to tell us. But we always want to show that to that person that we are good and all that. Whereas when we do that, the kid loses trust on us. It may not come and tell you, but it will definitely look, because for our kids, parents are the only source of strength, source of trust, everything. But when we fail in that, when the kid is also not able to explain to us what is happening or however it is, so that's a point where the kids' trust on us starts breaking. So we have to be really very careful. And I think our kids have to be the most important person in our life, and they have to always consider us the closest friend of theirs, and that is how we can bring up kids who respect us and respect themselves. So when they break when they don't respect us, they start not respecting them also, because they are forced to do something which they don't like to do. So when you are forced to do something, even as a grown person, somebody forces you to do something which you don't like, and you do it. If you are able to put your foot down and say no, you save your respect. But when you are forced to do it and you go ahead and do it, then you start losing self-respect. That's what we are instilling in the kids also.
So I'm a parent, so I'll speak from that perspective. So as a parent, how should you broach the topic? Intimacy, respect, and all of that. And
Okay.
what would be your suggestion for somebody like me who's a parent of, let's say, 7-year-old?
First of all, kids learn from more from observation than by talking. So I think the husband and wives not touching each other, being very away from each other in front of the kids, they don't work at all. I think the touching is very important, and in front of the kids, hugging your wife or being normal with her as your wife and husband, it will give them a kind of this thing about intimacy. After that, probably you can, these days you have a lot of movies or books or whatever it is, you can just talk to them. I don't know how to say this, but I think if you are very friendly with the kids, even before we start talking to them, they come out with a lot of questions. And at that time, I think we should take them seriously and sit with them and talk to them, rather than evading the topic, rather than telling them, no, we'll discuss this later and all that. For example, a small thing like sanitary pad. I've seen people going and buying and covered with some black cover, newspaper and all that. But when my son was in 4th standard or 5th standard, even before that, I used to make him go buy and come. So when he was in 5th standard or something, he asked me, why are you buying this often? What are you doing with this? So then I told him, I sat with him, I told him what happens to me every month, why am I buying that, what am I using it for? So that's a way I think sex also has to be discussed. So whenever they have a question, I'm sure these days kids are very curious and they come across so many things. And if they don't approach us, probably you can start talking to them about, do you like somebody in the school? Do you have a crush on somebody? Who are all your friends? So make it a habit, not only about sex. What I say is, make it a habit to talk to kids at least half an hour every day. Quality time you have to spend. We cannot just buy them things, give them everything. Just what I'm saying is by quality time, you come and tell them what all happened in your office or at home the whole day, whatever happened to them, and encourage them to talk about whatever happened with them on their day, whether it's school or playground or whatever. So that way you create a practice that they are open to you. You have a conversation with them every day. So it is easier for you to broach the subject also.
Is
Yes, ma'am. Actually, being human beings, I heard like that. Human beings are polygamic. Okay, so we are seriously discussing about how to help the children to know sex, know how to educate the sex. But I think the same intensity we have to teach the knowledge that the sexuality need of an elderly person is changing from 18 years to 40 years and 40 years to 60 years. So this is also something we have to discuss here. The sexual needs, the traits, that is one of the reason why the elder one is attacking to the children. So in that way, what kind of thoughts we can share in this situation?
this addition you have made in the second draft, which is talking about how age is connected to the sexual, like last few chapters. In the second draft of the book, which last two chapters you're discussing that.
Okay. No, how age is not a factor for having this thing. See, once sex is understood properly, I don't think the requirements could be different, the needs could be different. But if an aged person is attacking the small one, I think it's perversion actually.
There's a power hierarchy.
It could be perversion, it could be power hierarchy. Actually, we hear cases of kids being raped and all that. I'm sure physically they don't get any pleasure out of it, but the pleasure is here. So when somebody is vulnerable, you have got somebody might have oppressed him. He would have got oppressed by something else. It need not be sexual oppression. It could be anything where he wouldn't have been able to fight against and all that. So that goes to taking his frustration out on a vulnerable person like that. So it is only power, this thing actually. And once we start talking about sex openly, and if people can understand what it means to everybody, I don't think we will interfere in others' life. And I think a lot of these things can be avoided. Because we are a society where we have put everything either we call it holy after marriage once a license is given by the society, or we call it dirty. So we don't have any open conversation at all. So we create a lot of vulnerable people as well. We create a lot of people who are predators. So I think...
Thank you, Latha.
Thank you.
And I hope the Malayalam book will help us to open up a bit more about the discussion around sex and address our own hypocrisies, moral judgments, and to work towards a more inclusive conversations and address the hierarchies within the sexual practices, and also towards a more just and equitable way of living. And you haven't mentioned who is the translator of the book, and I really admire the effort gone for translating the book. Probably you can announce who is the translator who did the translation. You have no clue. So where that labor will go, the person who translated. Thank you so much being here, and I'm sure that the toilet seat will be മലയാളത്തിലും കൂടുതൽ ആളുകൾ വായിക്കുന്ന ഒരു പുസ്തകമായി മാറും. And I heard the Tamil, it's a huge conversation and very popular. I hope that will happen here also once the Malayalam book get available in the market. Thank you, Latha, for writing this book.
Thank you so much, Arathi. You really led the conversation beautifully and with very, what to say, it was a dedicated kind of a thing. Thank you so much. Thank you thank you to Malayalam Manorama for bringing out the Malayalam version, and for this occasion that has been given to me also.